Hello, it's Blue Orange 22. So you always see MRAs criticize the way feminists talk about male victims of domestic violence, and you often hear feminists say that MRAs don't actually care about male victims of domestic violence. We just use it as an excuse to attack feminism. I'm going to show you why feminists are wrong, and I'm going to show you this Reddit post in just a second to explain and demonstrate why men's rights activists are critical of feminists when it comes to male victims of domestic violence. Okay, so it's this Reddit post here, and yes, it's going to be a little bit of a slog getting through it all. It's going to be a little boring, but I promise you it's worth it. This video is going to shock you. Well, if you're an MRA, it probably won't shock you at all, but it's like feminists finally almost being honest about how they feel about male victims. The title of the post: How to Talk About Female on Male IPV, which is Intimate Partner Violence, and Assault in a Feminist Manner. And here's the post. I'll get through it quickly. Content warning for domestic violence, gender-based violence, sexual violence, and assault. My partner, 25 male, holds a lot of trauma from previous relationships where he was victimized by his past partners. His previous relationship several years ago ended due to his partner being severely physically and emotionally abusive, and he admitted to me that a previous relationship ended after he was forced to have sex with her non-consensually, and she eventually ceased contact after he became emotionally distant. He was hesitant to call this assault, saying, "I don't think I'm allowed to feel that way about it," saying that he felt uncomfortable describing it as such because she was a woman he had known for quite some time, but I assured him that she had done something horrible to him and he was allowed to feel violated and taken advantage of. This has left me very taken aback and put me in contact with many men who have undergone similar violence, and has led me to discover the rates of abuse and assault perpetrated against men by female partners are higher than I previously believed. First of all, for the record, I actually don't think the OP of this post is a bad person. She sounds like a genuinely decent person who's trying to help her boyfriend, and she's just genuinely unaware. But notice how she was surprised to learn how common this is. Feminists always say that, oh, the vast majority of victims are women, and it's very rare when it happens to men. But then when they actually talk to men about their experiences, they realize, oh, wait a minute, this is actually a lot more common than I thought. And yet, still, they can't bring themselves to accept the fact that maybe MRAs have a point, which we're going to get to in a little bit. But let's carry on. But this is very telling to me that as soon as she started to actually talking to men, she was surprised as a feminist to learn just how common it was. I mean, think about that for a second. All right, now for the rest of this post, and trust me, the true content is going to be the comments. Wait till you see what the responses are. Anyway, continue. The majority of feminist writing focused on patriarchy is causing this violence, focusing on previously recorded statistics which places violence as far less prevalent than it is, often excluding being made to penetrate from being recorded as a form of sexual violence. I thank and respect feminists severely for this wealth of information on female victimization, as it has enabled many to seek justice and to leave abusive partners, and the programs built during the second wave feminism helped so many more women survive and recover from domestic abuse, giving them community safety and much needed support prior to COVID-19, seem to be reducing domestic violence against women in quite amazing numbers. However, it seems that similar programs for men are also littered with anti-feminism. Now, I wonder why that would be. Maybe we'll find out later on when we see the comments. And this is disgusting to me. The path towards enabling domestic violence is an ending and uprooting the patriarchy, especially in an age where perpetrators are still not held accountable, which is extremely ironic on a feminist subreddit, and where so many men within positions of power abuse women and use their power to further enable men's capacity to abuse and control partners. These men do not seem concerned with ending domestic violence, but instead with ensuring that women are the ones vulnerable to it, with statistics of domestic and gendered violence rising. My question is, how to support my partner and the many men who have been abused and coerced while still keeping a focus on feminist critical analysis and action? And how do we analyze female on male domestic violence and assault through a feminist lens? How can we ensure safety for all victims of domestic violence and ensure we are meeting their needs adequately while keeping a focus on the sharp increase of gender-based violence? That's actually an excellent question. How do you talk about male victims of female violence through a feminist lens? when feminists teaches that the patriarchy is responsible for violence. How do you get around that? So that's a very good question. And I have to be honest, I'm actually very impressed and grateful that the mods actually kept it up. I woke up this morning thinking there's no way that post is still going to be there. I was kind of surprised to see that it was. So let's see what some of the comments have to say. I'm not going to look at all of them, but there's a couple of them that really jump out and that really kind of show how feminists really feel. Now, I actually like this first comment. This first person, I think, is actually a decent person. They're a feminist who they're really an MRA, they just don't know it yet. So let's take a look at their comment. Not the whole thing, just the first half. I'm not sure if I'll lose my feminist club card over this, but when an individual is disclosing abuse or assault, it doesn't matter what their sex is. You support them with kindness and acceptance of their lived experience. You look at them as another human being who was hurting and help them. Why would they be not sure if they would lose their feminist club card over this? Like, I get that they kind of mean that as a joke, but you can kind of tell that there's a small part of that that's not totally a joke. The fact that they felt the need to say it at all kind of says something. Anyway, second paragraph. I think instead of focusing on the incel type of fringe programs that you mentioned, remember, because they think MRAs are incels, advocate for more support and for male victims of domestic and sexual violence in the programs that are already working with victims and survivors. But that's what MRAs are trying to do. That's literally our entire point. And what do feminists say when we try and do that? They say, oh, you're just doing a whataboutism. You're just trying to hijack the conversation about women. You don't really care about male victims. You just want to suppress female victims, and you just want to replace the conversation on female victims with male victims and whataboutism and all the little buzzwords. But yet, a comment that got upvoted was saying, well, why don't, instead of following these incels, why don't we take the programs we have now and just let them help men? Yeah, that's what we've been saying for years. This one's just gold. I don't think I'd be bringing up feminism, particularly when talking to a male victim of domestic violence, IPV. I just don't see the value there. It's tone deaf, you think? Sharing sources that happen to be written by feminists on dealing with IPV? Maybe. But not bringing up the patriarchy specifically. How would that help that man at that time? Yeah, yeah, we know. We've been saying it for years. Isn't it interesting that she says, basically, well, why would you bring up feminism to talk about male victims? It's tone deaf, basically implying, well, feminism isn't the answer for men. But hang on, I thought feminism is the answer for men. I thought we don't need MRAs or incel groups because feminism helps men too. Except, wait, feminism doesn't help men too, because I don't even know why you would bring up feminism to a male victim, because it's tone deaf. So we should have a men's group. Oh no, we shouldn't have a men's group because feminism helps men too. Like, do you see? Like, if you're not a if you're a men's rights activist, I know you're not learning anything from this video because you've seen it, you know it. If you're a feminist, like, or you're not an MRA and you think that we're just a bunch of misogynistic incels, are you beginning to see how, like, feminist logic is completely circular and just feeds on itself, and there's no logical basis behind really any of it? Like, please tell me you can begin to at least glimpse how this works. So this next comment, which was a reply to the one you just read, is very much like mask off. It feels like the OP is trying to turn his experience into political talking points as opposed to helping him addressing his issues directly through therapy. What the hell does that mean? He's trying to turn his experience into political talking points. Don't feminists say that men should open up more? Don't feminists say that part of toxic masculinity is how men can express themselves and that men should be able to talk? And yet, when a man does describe his experience, he's attacked and says, it feels like OP is trying to turn his experience to political talking points. Like, how do they even get that conclusion? Based on what? So I have to apologize because I realize I've made you wait 10 minutes for the best comment, but this one is just like, ugh, I mean, just the arrogance and the ignorance is just, it really does kind of reveal it though. So let's get into it. I have been guilty of rolling my eyes when female on male domestic violence has come up in the past. Yeah, that's the usual experience we get from feminists. Most, if not all, the literature I've read on DV is centered on women's experiences and has expressed men's experiences as less severe and less frequent. This suggested it is a less pressing issue for feminists to worry about, and that's generally been my take. In other words, feminist literature lies and diminishes the male experience and denies that male victims exist. In part, this is because incels and MRAs have been leading the charge and they lack any credibility. I dismiss anything they say out of hand and will continue to do so. Hold up. You just said that you used to roll your eyes at male victims because you didn't think they were real, because all the feminist literature you read basically denied that they exist and said, oh, it's not that bad, it's not a big deal. So then you say, well, it's MRAs and incels who take the charge. Well, yeah, because by your own admission, feminists don't take it seriously. You just admitted that you don't take it seriously. Why wouldn't MRAs take the charge? But even knowing that, in the same sentence, they then go on to say, but I'm going to dismiss anything that MRAs say automatically, even though you just admitted that feminists don't take the issue seriously. Because feminists don't take the issue seriously, MRAs have stepped up to talk about it, and yet you're still going to dismiss anything MRAs say just because they're MRAs, and feminists have the audacity to accuse us of not caring about men's issues and just trying to trample on women's issues. I mean, seriously? Okay, and then it continues, and it's just. However, from my understanding, the topic is gaining more attention and credibility outside MRA/incel circles. I am not educated or informed on the topic, but I'm open to learning. Let's look at that again. I am not educated or informed on the topic. In other words, you have no idea about the topic at all, but I'm open to learning. So you have no idea about the topic, and yet you dismiss anything MRA say. Even though you admit that you don't know anything about it and that MRAs know more than you still dismiss anything MRA say. And you say you're open to learning, but you're not willing to listen to MRAs? Anyway, continues. I think it would be fair to acknowledge that we tend to be quick to take a but we got it worse stance or otherwise minimize and dismiss the issue. Let's go over that sentence again. I think it would be fair to acknowledge that we tend to be quick to take a but we got it worse stance or otherwise minimize and dismiss the issue, aka whataboutism, aka exactly what they accuse MRAs of doing. And they're admitting that they minimize and dismiss the issue. And then read why. I think this is because many of us are reluctant to give an inch because we fear the patriarchy will take a mile. I worry that women's DV issues will get pushed aside in favor for supporting men and demonizing women. And that's why MRAs don't trust feminists when it comes to male victims of domestic violence. They admit that they dismiss the issue, they minimize the issue, they don't take it seriously, they don't understand it. And the thing they accuse us of doing, of trying to interrupt women's conversations and making it about men, is the reason why they don't want to acknowledge male victims. And every comment I showed you was upvoted. Now, I could go on. I could keep going through comments after comments. You'll see if you look, the reply to that comment was saying, feminism is the only way to deal with this because the patriarchy is the reason why men aren't taken seriously as victims. Even though you feminists are admitting that you don't take male victims seriously or even believe they exist. Now, the only reason I'm going to stop the video here is because I'm getting to the 15-minute mark. And once you get past 15 minutes, people kind of lose interest. And if they see a video is too long, they don't bother clicking on it. But there's more. But that should give you an idea. And keep in mind, I wasn't scrolling the bottom of the thread looking at all the controversial and downvoted posts. Those are all the posts towards the top that are upvoted. Just look at how many upvotes those posts have, which tells you the majority of feminists on that subreddit agree with those comments. The main takeaway is that they admit that they don't really take male victims seriously because feminist literature has taught them that male victims are really rare or not really important or don't really matter, and they just don't see why feminism should be involved. And yet, at the same time, they criticize MRAs for even existing. I mean, it's completely nuts. So, to people who wonder why MRAs always criticize feminists, hopefully this video has given you a little bit of an idea. Now, this was for domestic violence. Imagine every single issue that MRAs talk about, this is what feminists are like. Are you getting an idea? I hope so. Anyway, I'm Blue Orange 22. I'm not going to link the subreddit, the post, because I don't want people to say that I'm doxing anyone. But you know, it's very common for that subreddit. Just browse the Ask Feminist subreddit anytime you want to, and just click any post, and you'll see it is very, very much sexist, ignorant, and hateful. I'm Blue Orange 22. Thanks for watching.